Welcome to the AI Queens podcast, the show where women entrepreneurs learn to ditch the overwhelm, embrace AI, and build businesses fit for royalty. I'm Erika Stanley, your host and tech expert, here to deliver tools, tips, and actionable strategies to help you scale smarter. Let's get to it. Hi, Queens, and welcome back to the AI Queens podcast. Today, we have a really special guest. This is Rachel Njiru. She is the founder of Kavoo Studio, which is an AI strategy and governance consultancy. She's building this for regulated markets. Rachel is a totally gifted AI consultant. We have met in person. I have seen her speak on stages, and she is just, I am so excited to have her today. So welcome to AI Queens. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Erika, and thank you very much for having me on the AI Queens podcast. And really thank you for that amazing intro.
Well, Rachel, I want to start out. I like to open most of my episodes with an AI misconception or like just AI BS that you have heard that you want to debunk today. And the reason I want to really kick off with this one is because I just love it so much, especially because you are so gifted and so experienced. But what is the thing that you keep hearing over and over again that you're just like, man, that's not true. That's holding people back?
I think there's a lot of people being held back by the perception that they need to have better tech skills or need to learn a bit of techie stuff, geeky stuff to be able to get into AI. But that's, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions. You are able to get into AI just from where you sit. It doesn't matter the role that you're having or the work that you feel you're really good at. It can really help you amplify any type of work that you need to do. And today, the AI LLMs are getting a bit more clever and a bit more, the reasoning and the memory is really good. So you are able to even ask it to teach you. So if you're not really comfortable, start with, hi, I'm a marketer and I'm really stuck. Where can I start with AI? And it will guide you. Hi, I've been doing support roles. What can it help me? And then what can you help me build? And it will really start you from the education side all the way to being able to deliver what you need to deliver.
And your background is not, just like mine, your background's not in tech either, right?
No, I am a previous CPA, so I have a background in finance, which also helps me in AI because it means I'm able to approach technology from a profit and loss lens. I'm able to see where can we be able to grow our profits and losses and also manage our margins. And over the 20 years, I've worked across finance, operations, sales, and a little bit in digital transformation. And through AI, I've then been able to call myself a strategic translator, someone who takes complex technical visions and then I'm able to turn them into measurable business value.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is really cool. So you consider yourself a translator, somebody who did not come from the tech space. You come from the finance space. And now what is it that you're doing with AI with companies? How are you translating this for them?
So my focus is on being able to understand where can we get your return on investments in AI. So we start with a lot of businesses always approach AI with how is it going to help me reduce my costs? But there's other facets into it. There's revenue expansion, there's risk mitigation, and we need to come from the floor of cost savings and really start going to the upside of revenue, having faster sales cycles, managing our customer retention. So my responsibility is really to bring a business to understand their business strategy and how they can use AI to achieve those within AI governance, governance.
It's okay. So side story. My husband and I have been wanting to get solar panels for the top of our house. And we brought in a solar guy to talk us through. And I mean, they want to sell you the solar panels, right? We want to save money. But he's like, hey, your house has these 100-year-old windows. None of them seal properly. The glass is like a millimeter thick. I mean, I can hear my neighbor walking around in her house. and it's a house next door. But like, we are not going to save any money doing solar panels, as cool as those are, unless we address the problem with our windows first. And I feel like there's so many people who when I talk to them, they're like, oh, I want to start doing quotes. I want to start doing AI in my company to save money, save time. And there are so many other leaky points in their business that they need to fix first. Because you can slap AI on top of a messy business, and it's just going to make that messy business run faster and messier.
So AI will, proceed.
No, I mean, that's like, as you were talking, I was just remembering that story, like, oh my gosh. And I found that same thing with my AI. When I'm trying to like work on a process, I got to get that process super nailed down first.
AI will amplify the good as equally as the bad that you have. So one of the things to get is your foundations right. So before you jump onto, I'm using AI and I'm jumping into this tool, which tool am I going to use? You first of all need to understand your current state. Where am I? That's the window thing. Where am I? You thought about the solar saving you energy, but you need to look back. What's my current situation? And then where is my future state? Where am I trying to get to? Understand that and document what does that design look like? How do I get from the point that I am at? How do I get to where I need to go? And how do I sustain it once I get there? And then now you can be able to then use AI to build around that, making sure that you have a good foundation. And always a good foundation is data. Right? For most businesses, in your case of a solar in your home, it's the data of how much your thin windows are already costing you excess energy. So there is still data there, and making sure your foundation is well laid out so you don't build on quicksand.
Oh yeah. I have found that building an AI, building on that foundation of quicksand. Like you start to build things and then you realize even something as simple as me trying to build a process for my VA to take my podcast episodes and turn them into different like social media posts and things like that. I didn't have a steady process. Mm-hmm. So it was impossible for me to teach her and create AI to help her because I didn't have the process nailed down for myself. It all lived in my head. And when it all lives in your head, are you seeing that in organizations too, where you've got like all of this knowledge that lives in different people's heads in their departments, and you can't teach AI to do anything with that?
AI is good at pattern recognition, right?
So
you really have to put those things down somehow. Somewhere it has to come from our heads. The same way your mind works. The reason I'm able to call you and tell you, hey, Erika, I need this for really marketing, and you automatically say, do this, is because you have the pattern mapped out in your head. So yes. It's the same thing. We need to map that pattern for AI so that it can then recognize when this happens, it happens this way. Okay, this happens 80% of the time. I can automate that part and leave the 20% for Erika to come back, or for the user to come back and then give feedback. That's why you always have to have human in the loop and not leave it to do 100% of the work. But definitely you do need to get down to documenting every single part. The things that you think are not important might be the most important part. So really write it down. And with the new AI tools and even the recording devices that we have on our on our mobile devices, if you don't want to sit down and write, sit down and talk on your walk. Anyway, just say everything. Assume you're speaking to a client like you, and the process you'd follow, all that is in your brain, that brain power. Talk about it, copy paste that transcript, drop it to the AI, and over time you will see it will do that pattern matching for you and will be able to help you along the way in your automating your journey.
Yeah. Okay. So anytime you have something that you do, and so when you work with companies and you're talking to executives, team leads, things like, okay, anytime you guys do something that is repeatable, that you do over and over again, you just have them voice dictate it to themselves on their phones? Or that's just one way to do it?
That's one way to do it. It depends on the level of the organization. Some organizations have very good documentations that have been written previously and are lying somewhere gathering dust.
Yep.
and it's taking those because somebody wrote a process document somewhere back in the day of how we do things. And then it then came later and got lost in translation because of everybody started doing it to their own interpretation. Sometimes it's then starting from there, dusting it up, bringing it out, and then speaking to the humans who then do that work. You always have to start from the ground up. What are the challenges you're seeing? And then understanding what did they change in that process. So say, I was told to do this way, but I do it this way because it's more efficient. So you have to catch those nuances as well to get to how it is today. And then from that, we then start to map out which of this is very, very repetitive, which one of this can be readjusted, which ones can we really automate and which ones can't we automate, and then you start to work from there.
Are you getting any pushback in organizations from team members who see this kind of documentation as a way to maybe phase them out over time?
Every time. So there is
okay.
There's a thing in self-protection. If I feel like you're doing something and then I'm going to, like, you sometimes give them tools and they say, oh, but if I do this and now AI does this, what does this mean for me? So they start to resist. They think I'm not going to feed it the information. It's like the traditional, you're told, please train this person your role, and you only train them the 5% because you think you want to hold the information. But I think for organizations that worked is where you have a strategy inbuilt on where you also start to educate your teams of how the roles will change and what does this mean. So once I've given all this information to this AI tool, how do we shift the narrative from jobs to tasks, right? So this is not my job. My job still remains. It's the task that I have been doing, and use the task level analysis to show employees which parts of their day will be automated, which ones will end up giving them more time, and then having that reskilling guarantee that I'm then going to reskill you to this other level to elevate you once you've stopped doing that stuff. And then having psychological safety within the teams. So where leaders are also bringing out their fear, because that's only the staff that is afraid. The leader is also afraid, maybe I will not get something to do once I've also trained my part. So having that environment where we can all address our fears and teach each other as we go along.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot of layers there, a lot of layers and a lot of fear. And you hear it, I hear it. People are afraid that AI is going to come and take our jobs. And I love the distinction between a job and a task. I feel like the jobs that I've had in the past, there's so many little tasks that you do that have nothing to do with the reason that they hired you to begin with. Because of your brain, your problem solving abilities, your creativity, things like that. And then there's all these little tasks that you have to do that pull you out and away from that. And I love the idea of automating some of that so that you have the ability to grow in your role in a way that is tapping into your talents, where your gifts are, not pushing widgets around.
Take a salesperson, for example. You're hired to bring in new business. You're measured at bringing new business, but you spend almost 90% of your time telling the business which leads you're going to work on. How did you find those leads? That's filling your CRM.
Oh gosh, right? Yes.
And then you spend time figuring out who is this client and how am I going to present this to them, right? Then there's the other side where you're also thinking, how am I going to then build the value proposition for this client to close? Then there's the contracting space, following up, right? For some businesses which don't have teams to hand over to thereafter, you're then also responsible for the collection of the revenue thereafter. So, and let's not even talk about the implementation phase when this is going and the client is seeing you as a support person. So you're spending 90% of your time doing unsales work. Whereas if you automate all that work, you can just focus on doing the sales. The model will do for you the feeling of your CRM. It will do for you the matching of your customers, who is ideal, and your value proposition. It will help you build your presentations. It will help you hand over to the implementation team. And also like the support thereafter, it's very well documented, and your focus really remains on finding new
Oh,
clients.
that's so genius. And I think the sales is a really good example because I like
Mm-hmm.
in my previous agencies, we worked with sales teams, and you're right. They spent so much time working in the CRM, updating things, putting together presentations, putting together proposals, then running a report after. So there's all of these
Mm-hmm.
things that have very little to do with the actual gift or talent, which I don't have, of being a really effective salesperson. Oh wow. Imagine if you could take that 90% of time that you're not doing sales, truncate that down to 25%, because you've still got to have human in the
Mm-hmm.
loop for these things. But now you're spending
Yeah.
75% of your time on the actual sales piece instead of only 10 to 20%. So that's, I mean, you're increasing your effectiveness at your actual job, not at the little like pixel pushing tasks. So cool.
Yes, and yeah, and AI will never replace that. There is no time. Remember where we are now, there's table stakes in AI, where people don't want to see that I'm talking to an AI tool. They still want to speak
Yep.
to a person. It will not build relationships for you. So you really can focus on the human element. And there's a lot of human element in every role, including in
Yep.
marketing.
We're even seeing the flip side of that where no, you can't, people don't want to forge a relationship with a machine. There's actually pushback against, like when people are seeing AI generated content or something that looks, it's got too many M dashes, must be AI. Like people just are writing it off now because we want
Yeah.
to see the messy, we want to see the imperfect human element.
We want to still know that there is a human at the end of the conversation. Even with your call centers, if I know that I'm speaking to a human at the back, my perception of the feedback that I got is not the same as if I spoke to a human, because then I know they're going. We are changing how we perceive that, but still stays the same, that we still want to interact with humans more.
So you work in regulated industries. What do you mean by that? Tell us a little bit about that.
The reason I picked regulated industries is mostly businesses that have theoretical governance and enforceable law. So there is another layer of regulations that they have to follow besides their own business set regulations. For example, in healthcare and life sciences, there is regulation they have to follow for everything that you do. If you think about financial services, AI can be deeply integrated there, but regulators will now focus on your black box models to make sure that there's no bias there. In aviation, where you have autonomous system, but they cannot compromise physical safety or risk. Then you have in employment and human resources, where there's consequential decisions that affect real people. So there is a lot of heavy lifting, even within the critical infrastructures for today. They affect just more than your business. And so they require another layer of governance and regulation that you have to follow to make sure you're within par. I wanted to focus on that because my experience has really been in very complex matrix environments, which were very heavily regulated. I spent a lot of years negotiating with regulators. And so I understood what those nuances are. And for me, it's then an easy plug-in to be able to then help them move from AI, from a previous role of helping them adopt
Okay.
conversational AI.
So I have a couple of I work primarily with small business owners. I know a lot of my listeners
Mhm.
are either entrepreneurs or small business owners, and they fall in this regulated space. I've talked to financial services professionals, therapists, people who are really concerned about the ethics and privacy of the AI that they want to use in their business, but they're a little hesitant to do so. Can you speak to that a
Mhm.
little bit?
So in some of when it comes to those businesses, especially when they're small businesses but still operate in regulated markets, they tend to see governance as something that will like slow them down, right? But I'm just one person and I'm really checking this. But really the important thing is that to understand that they need, it's supposed to, it can work as an accelerator, right? So when you're saying I'm adopting AI, again, it's thinking about, they need to think about how does this affect the overall nature of my business? If I'm a therapist, for example, right? And I'm going to use AI tools to help me brainstorm about maybe a patient who I'm having very difficulty with because I need another level of psychology book that I haven't really studied and the client is about to come. So please summarize this phases for me to be able to help this client. It's where are you putting their data? Who's going to have access to that data later on, right? So the decision making of which tool to use, how has that tool been trained, becomes something that you have to look into more than just somebody who is holding a support role and is not using any data that has got markers, right? So there's certain nuances when you work with somebody within a regulated market, if it's financial services and you're helping them build something, for example, for if it's loan generation, for example, determining if this person can get a loan and this one cannot get a loan. What is the training data underneath it? Did the training data have biases or not? So they have to just go a little bit deeper. And that's what then we help them and hold them to understand what layers of governance do they have, and mostly the ownership part of it. Who owns the layer when something breaks? Who is accountable for the fault when there's a problem within the system?
I think that's part of it, because there's been so much. I mean, up until now, the hallucinations are a real problem. And so when you are not going through its outputs with a fine-tooth comb, with detailed eyes, you have to go through everything. Then if something gets messed up, if something's wrong, who is accountable for that? Are you, because you're the last human to look at it? Is the machine? Like, and especially something sensitive like medical, financial, things like that. So
yeah. And what data do you feed the model and what data do you remove, and understanding why?
what kind of systems are these regulated systems using? I mean, they're not just throwing stuff into regular old ChatGPT, obviously.
No, I think the tools depend. I don't like to focus on AI tools
Okay.
because there's way too many of them. So I really help people with tools based on their stack and their need, right? You do find that a lot of people already have systems which have an AI embedded into it, but they don't use that. They'll leave that and go to ChatGPT because they perceive ChatGPT to be the AI. But maybe I'm using Salesforce, which already has elements of what I need at the back end, right? Or I'm using a platform for example, if it's a healthcare facility, the platform that I am using, maybe my provider has already embedded AI capability at the back of it, but we just haven't learned to use it. You may be using already Microsoft or Google tools, right? Which already have ability to embed AI at the back of it. So I really look at somebody's tech stack and to determine where we are going to go and where we're going to go, or where we're not going to go to, as opposed to, oh, these are the tools that you all need. So no.
Got it. Okay. So you're looking at their existing tech stack and trying to figure out what already exists, where can we plug in what's appropriate for them. But I like the Salesforce example because I know Salesforce has already got AI baked in. And if you are using Salesforce, it's already compliant. Like if your entire organization has adopted it, it has already met all those compliance regulations. So, absolutely. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I have not played around with the Salesforce AI. I know nothing about it. I just know, I feel like every tool I look at these days, it's all got AI baked in.
It's all, then that's why it's very important to look at your tool stack and the capabilities and what's missing. Only add on what you're missing, and also find compounding growth, right? So which tool, like sometimes we don't look at the product strategy for the tool that I'm using, right? Go to their website, check what are they building next. Are they going to align to my future of where I'm going, right? And then before you start comparing this one and that one, this one might have very flashy today, but it might remain static, right? What are those little embedded things? What are the tools that they partnered with that I can layer? For example, Claude today has partnered with so many service providers that maybe you just need to bend on top of it, right? But how do I do it from a cost perspective? Because we also know some of these LLMs, the price to do actual business work the price is punitive. Such, and you don't want to keep escalating your cost. So there's, I think, a lot of stuff to check, as well as the throughput. How much does it allow me to do? Inference as well, and latency. There is a lot of just stuff to look at. Just don't always look at the output, right? Look at it holistically.
Yeah, I saw a really cool study. It was an agency like mine that was using both Claude Code and Codex to build a tool. And it was basically like, all right, we're going to use the same prompts. We're going to use the same and just these two different tools and see how it performs. And Codex had spit out the tool within a couple minutes. And it was fully functioning and it looked fine. Claude Code, it took like 10 times as long to do it. It used exponentially more tokens. It thought really long and hard about what it was doing, about the problem it was trying to solve. And so the overall cost to create that output was so much higher, but the output was greater. And so what you have to look at, and this study did not go into that, obviously, but what you have to look at as the business owner, was the original output from Codex, was it good enough? Did it solve my problem? And am I sacrificing extra like bells and whistles over here for something that's going to be, I mean, yeah, it looks fancier. It looks like, but it was much more costly. Is this output from Claude Code, is it really that much better? And if it really is, then awesome. Then the cost was worth it. If not, if it's just the flashy piece, then you can get away with the lower cost over here.
And most of us can get away with the lower cost models, right? And that is why it's very important to really understand where you're going. What do I really, because if your strategy is messy, then you will want the flashy because you don't really know what it's supposed to be fixing and for whom.
It's starting with the problem. What do I need it to do? Do I need it to have this like pretty gradient overlay? And does it need to have these extra little things around the buttons? And nah, I could probably get away with not having that. Does it solve the problem that I initially came to it to solve?
And does it meet the needs of my customers? So where do I generate business value from this? Right? Because it's for us, the builders, we want sometimes more because we think more is going to bring more business value. Down to where am I going to derive the most value for my customers, in return value for me. If it's just a static kind of a website thing where you want information to go out, do I really need it to be flashy or do I need to get to the point?
Oh, this is such a cool point because it's a big difference between me and you, Rachel. I am building things for the sake of building a lot of times. I'm in that mode where I'm just like, I'm experimenting, I'm trying different things out. And what you're saying, and I need to remember this as I'm quote unquote wasting time learning and iterating, is what business goal is this accomplishing for me? And I hear this a lot from small business owners, from entrepreneurs, is we are experimenting. We're trying a lot of different things. I encourage it. I encourage play. But what business goal am I trying to accomplish by doing this? For example, I just this past weekend spent a couple hours here and there. I was building a website for my sister who had just launched a new business. And I did the whole thing in Claude Code. And I knew it was going to take me a little bit longer. And I knew, because she's my sister and I didn't charge her anything, I knew like I wanted this to be a learning experience for me. Like I needed an excuse to really get in and push to see how far I could take Claude Code without having to bring in outside like other things. And for me, that was worth the cost. That was a specific business goal that I needed to meet. But I cannot say that for a lot of the other projects that I that I build. Oh my gosh, I do waste a little bit of time here and there. So
I am a tickler as well, and I do a lot of side experiments as well because it's fun, and I love learning. And it really, there's a lot of complexity in there we all have to unpack. One of the strategies I'm using is compounding value.
okay.
Right? So does this add on to something, or is it if it's completely parallel and it doesn't compare to what I'm building towards, then I push it on the side. I have on my calendar, I have something called like me time, and it's me time with AI. Like that means
Yeah.
that those little things. And so I can then say, okay, I'm spending too much time with me time on AI, which is literally doing things that don't compound, that I need to just know how they exist. So I can keep reducing it to focus my time on the things that are important. But like now your sister's website, you can take it into the compounding value because it's getting you becoming better doing websites for clients. Now, what are the things you now be first on Cloud Code when you're building the next person's? So that comes to compounding value for your business.
I think I remember that Google used to give their employees a certain amount of hours per week or per month to go out and play and develop those skills. And some of the Google products that we use, I think Gmail came from that. Like some of the products that we use every single day came from them allowing their employees to go out and play and level up their skills, test things, play around with things. So I love that. And that was 20 years ago. I love that AI has now opened the door for those of us that have ideas to bring them to life, or at least start.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like for me, it was like my playtime. I started to like just find a lot of content that I had that has got nothing to do with consulting or governance or anything or AI. And I'm like, how can I do this? Like, for example, I've got very good material on pricing strategy. So what can I do with this? And I started to play with all that data that I had. And I've finally been able to put it into, it's not out yet. That fear of launch it messy hasn't happened yet. But I was playing around and I've actually created a platform that I'm able to take idea to commercialization. And all I did was during that playtime, to take a lot of my content and then I created some GPTs, I created some workflows for some of them. And then I went like, wait, but this step leads to this one, this step leads to this one. Why can't it be a platform? And now I'm figuring out how do I put it into a platform that can help small businesses and startups that don't have that level of knowledge to be able to go in there, and it will guide you on each and every step to all the way to then how do you get to building your website and hosting it. And it wasn't really on my consulting time. It was literally on playtime. So definitely advocate for
and you're using you're using all that you learned during your MBA, that you've learned during your years of experience, just not what you're doing right this second.
Yeah. And also like being part of like the community, like we are part of She Leads. And I remember there was a presentation from a lady called Anne a few weeks ago, and she was showing like all these aspects of different facets of business, and she built agents for them. And I was like, wait, my many books and everything can turn into a platform. And really seeing that, and the fact that I was already playing around with the idea of what can I do with all this material has really resulted into something that I think is great. I'm now testing it for 2 or 3 startups to see the output, to see if it's really good for being put out there. But even if it isn't, it's still a great guide for someone who doesn't have the content.
And Queens, I love this example. Please, this is not the first time that I've had this conversation with somebody from the She Leads AI community of this idea where we all have we are multi-passionate, many of us. And we all have these little things that could turn into side hustles, that could be side projects that we just, like, it's like a little twinkle that we want to share with the world. And AI is now giving us the ability, the platform to build something that you could then take that little bit of genius that you have that you're not doing anything with and share it with others.
Absolutely. It really is making all of us be able to to have a voice in the layer of innovation. Innovation has become so easy to take from the idea in your head to something that you can actually show. And I always advocate for everybody. If you really do not know where to start, just even go to Lovable and just type the idea itself. And once you see the little one pager with your idea come to mind, I'm sure it was going to motivate you to go ahead with it. So really do experiment, try, don't feel overwhelmed. We all are learning as we go. And I think if you really pick within your society people that are trying to do the same things and every now and then have conversations with them, you will feel so encouraged, and you're going to get your biggest encouragement from the places you least expect.
I love that so much. And I think that's a great segue. My usually my last question is like, if women want to get started, where do they go? You just answered that. Like hopping into Lovable, hopping into Claude Code, any of these tools now that we have access to, and just try to bring an idea to life.
That notebook of yours that you've written over the years of, I wish I could do this. I wish I could have a tour company. I wish I could do 1, 2, 3. Go and just type, what is a tour company I can do for whatever city you sit in? What is a marketing idea for whatever that idea is? And then find community around you that is really experimenting with AI, because it can get very lonely. She Leads is always available. We do have that Saturday's call that all the ladies can join to be able to listen to other ladies build from nothing. But even if that's not available for you, or it's not an option for you, just in your community, 3 or 4 people that are experimenting with you, because you do need that support. Because sometimes you feel like, am I doing the right thing? Is it really working? Does it work this way? Or maybe my way is not the right way. You'll come and learn that your way is the right way. It just feels too simple to be real.
It really does. And I have like a small little circle of people that whenever I code something new, I will send it to them like, oh my gosh, look what I just built. And I love having those people that I can ping back and forth with, that we share with. And so I love that. Having a community is so, so important, especially as we get more digital and more online, having the analog piece, the community and the connection.
Yeah. And also because we can't learn everything.
Yep.
It's too much. Moving too fast. So I learn this, you learn that, we share, we all get better. We help each other grow. We lift each other.
Rachel, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to find you?
For now, LinkedIn. Rachel Njiru.
Awesome. I will put Rachel's LinkedIn in the show notes. And as she mentioned, She Leads AI has it's called Social Saturdays, and it's free to join. It's every Saturday. And it's a group of fantastic women who are all different levels of AI. Some like tippity top experts who are just like pushing the boundaries of what I even can imagine can be done. And then there's total beginners, and everybody comes and we just have such a good time on those calls. Yes, everyone's welcome. So Rachel, thank you so much for your time today, for the conversation, and for the encouragement for my queens to get out there and get started. Even if you're in a regulated industry, there are still ways that you can be using AI.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. Thank you for a great conversation. I really enjoyed this. Look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you. And thanks so much, queens. We will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the AI Queens podcast. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow queen who needs to hear this. Want more tools and tips? Join the AI Queens Society over at aiqueens.com and start ruling your business with confidence today. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep reigning with AI.